Look at this. Let me sit down.
It's Jazzy Jazz with the Lee Bailey's EURweb.com spotlight. I got Erika Alexander in the building from Living Single. I love that show. That's how old school I am. I watch it all the time. That is my stuff for real. And she's going to spill the tea on what it's like working close and personal with a Wu-Tang, being a newly single woman. And she's got a brand new podcast that is fire called Payback. I got a whole bunch of folks on my Payback list. I bet you do too. Come hang out with us. It's going to be fun. It's Jazzy Jazz with Lee Bailey's EUR Web Spotlight. And you loved her as Cousin Pam in The Cosby Show. She killed the game as one of our first examples of a truly boss, brilliant, gorgeous, independent Black queen in as Max in Living Single. She produced the documentary on civil rights hero John Lewis Good Trouble. And that's just a tiny list of all of the accomplishments. The detective in Get Out, the mom in Wu-Tang's American Saga. I am so honored to have in the building right now one of my sheroes, social justice warrior and iconic actor, Erika Rose Alexander. And she's got this dope new podcast that is fire called Reparations, the Big Payback. Hey.
Payback. Hey, how are you, Jazz? Thank you for this invitation to be here. Hope you can hear me, and I'm so glad to be here today, talk to you, and congratulations on everything that you're accomplishing. And, you know, it's a really good time right now for Black women. And we, you know, people are really reassessing how powerful we are in the world. And more importantly, we are also demonstrating it and taking ownership of it. So congratulations.
Word. Thank you so much. That is so true. Well, talk to me, tell me about the podcast.
The podcast is called Reparations, the Big Payback. I do it with a co-host named Whitney Dow.
And he's a white boy.
He's a white boy, right as you can get, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, went to Ivy League schools, did all that thing, but his work was in race. He wanted to bring white ears, Black, to teach them how to listen to Black voices. And so he had some sort of experience that he never really looked at race so deeply, and it changed his life and gave him his career. And
wow.
the accomplishments done lately have been through doing the work in the documentary space. So we started doing a documentary, actually, having been introduced to each other by the great Joy Reid. And we started a reparations documentary almost 2 years ago.
Wow.
Somebody came to us and said, "Hey, do you ever think about podcasts?" And we thought, well, that would be great because it would come out before the documentary. Everything takes so long to do. And a podcast we thought would be a little simpler. Boy, were we wrong. It is difficult to do a really good narrative podcast. Narrative podcast was tough. And so we applied all of our, skill sets, but we had to learn plenty of new ones. There's a lot of shout out to people who do those types of things. And we created a podcast to go with the documentary that will eventually be out, and that's Reparations, the Big Payback.
And when you think about reparations, all of the generational wealth that Black folks generated for white people. I mean, every CEO you see, basically, every successful company was built on the backs of Black folks. But Black people, not only did we not get a little bit of that, we were prevented from building it even from scratch. I mean, we all remember we don't remember it because we weren't there, but we all know about the Tulsa 1921 bombing in Oklahoma, when because Black folks had these thriving, successful businesses, white folks went crazy and bombed the whole town. So, and then there were laws that prevented us, obviously, from owning things, from getting loans. So, I mean, it is so timely right now. Like, what are you hoping to see out of this? Talk to me about that.
I'm hoping to see that the conversation not only moves forward in Congress, which is the HR 40 bill that is being pushed along by Sheila Jackson Lee. It was before then with John Conyers when he retired. He just recently passed away, but when he retired, Sheila Jackson Lee took it up. But that's just a bill to discuss and analyze and diagnose reparations, not to give us reparations. So that bill has been asking to be heard on the floor of Congress for 30 years. More than.
What? 30 years?
They don't even want us to discuss it. That's how it is.
I know, that's true.
African Americans were the only people who had this sin done to them, who got an apology from the United States that said, and you can't use this apology for reparations.
And I am
It
so
was,
ready for my coin, like for real.
yes, but again, people think it is about checks, and I went in thinking it was about money, and partly there's some it is, but it's also about focused programs and legislation and
Absolutely.
policy to enact some sort of social contract for the deliberate destruction of an entire people for over
Exactly.
400 years, and then the
Yeah.
terrorizing of us over after Reconstruction and in Jim Crow, and then even now. So yeah, what I'm hoping for ultimately is that that conversation move along, but also the good news is there was movement in 2019. A reparations bill, the first one in history, was actually passed in Evanston, Illinois, by a Black woman named
All right
Robin Rue
now.
Simmons. Alderwoman Robin Rue Simmons did the first reparations bill in American history. She's called the Rosa Parks of reparations, and she did it in the year, the 400th year of when our enslaved feet touched the ground.
Now
And
that's
so I
what's
think it's
up.
an omen. So maybe reparations one day, maybe not in lifetime, whatever, can be in the offing
And
one
you know
day.
what? I'm going to claim it because we have won as a
All right.
people bigger struggles. You know what I'm saying? And I think if we unify around something, can nothing stop us. And it is so
Yes,
just. Now you
I
do a
agree.
lot of like you work with Bishop Barber on the Poor People's Campaign. You do a lot of woke stuff. You know what I'm saying? And what talk to me about art and activism and how you see that.
I don't believe that if you're an African American artist of any kind of reputation or credential, that you can divorce yourself from the being an activist or an advocate for something. Now, there's many people who don't do it, but for the majority of them, you see from Cecily Tyson to
Yes.
Sidney Poitier, Helen Berry Fonte, so many, they had to, because
Right.
that platform was the only thing that Black people had to amplify the voices that they were not showing. It's not like now where everybody's got a phone and they can tell. No, you had to be Martin Luther King or a celebrity in order to get heard. And there were so many activists and advocates that they um, uh, stopped from speaking and killed. So it was left to where we were doing the most. I guess we were making the most accomplishments as performers, and not just performers, but athletes and otherwise. Robeson was
Right.
one. Muhammad Ali was one.
Right.
So I don't see myself outside of any tradition. I see myself
Oh,
squarely inside of the tradition they created, not because they wanted to just take that up. They didn't. They would have loved to probably just do their acting or their writing or their whatever and do that, but they were called and compelled to, because our people has not gained anything without a fight.
that is such real talk. But not to throw shade, but your wokeness is something very special. And I mean, we got our little Waynes, supported Trump and, Lil Pump and
Lord
some
have
other
mercy.
folks.
Lord,
So,
Lord.
not all Black folks that are in art are as woke as you are. What brought that to you? Was it your childhood? I mean, I know you grew up rough, you grew up poor, you struggled with a lot of challenges. As Cardi says, you've been through some things. What do you think brought that wokeness to you?
It was my childhood, definitely. I always say that I am a product of my mother and father, especially my mother. They were both orphans. I'm one of
Hmm.
six. I grew up the first 11 years of my life in a hotel called Starlight off of Route 66. And
Wow.
living that life with my father was an itinerant preacher. He was a coach preacher. And my mother was a teacher. It was very difficult. We were well educated, though. And I have only a high school degree in life because I kept working once I got to work. Eventually, by the time I got to Philadelphia, which was in eighth grade, and my parents were moving around, he was sponsored by the German Lutherans to become a Lutheran pastor, which I think was a good move, because as a Church of God in Christ pastor, you were depending on offerings, and that's like being a
Right.
tipped wage worker. You can't do
Right.
that. He had his first heart attack at 35. He
Oh.
died shortly just before I started living single. He
Mm,
had a rough way to go and was born with a bad heart. So I just kept working to help my mother.
mm, mm,
Also, because
mm.
the opportunity was there, I was discovered when I was 14 in a basement theater called Freedom Theater, and they were looking for kids to Black girls to audition for a movie that came to town, an independent film called My Little Girl. And they said, you should all audition because I was in a performing arts program, a 6-week program. And in the fifth week, came to town. They said, you should all go in. You may not do anything with acting, but you get the opportunity. And I ended up being the one they chose.
Wow.
Also realized there were all those hundreds of girls in the tri-state area that weren't chosen.
That
And
weren't
that
true.
once I got in, being a dark-skinned girl, I also saw the limitations of what I was going to be offered. So I started to learn how to be an artist and a creator. And that set me on another path. But the activist path has, like I said, been drilled into me because that's just who they
Yeah.
were. And it's who I feel like I have to be.
And you're so humble with all of it. I just love that about you.
Oh.
Now, when I hit you up on the phone, you were on the set with
Mhm,
Wu-Tang. So I guess
mhm.
that's the next season. You got to just give us a
Yeah.
little bit of a spoiler alert. Just a little one.
Um, well, here's the thing. The Wu-Tang is back. Wu-Tang. And
Yeah.
yeah, and when they left, Bobby's mother, the person I play is Linda Diggs, had moved to Cleveland, Ohio, which really did happen in life. And Bobby will end up moving there with her. And then we'll see how that interaction, because he got out of some hot water in New York, Staten Island. She got out of there trying to just have a different life for herself and reconnecting
Right.
with her previous relationship. But he's going to find that it ain't so easy, even in Ohio. And that's how
Ooh.
he starts. His trouble there will set him on a new path. And that's how he starts the Wu Tang Clan.
Wow, that's what's up. I can't wait to see it. Okay, you got to
Yeah.
tell me which one. Now, you can't just say RZA because you play his mom, right? Which one is your favorite Wu-Tang? When you was growing up, which one were you feeling the most?
Well,
And
I would be
why?
wrong if I didn't mention Bobby Diggs, the great RZA. I just knew more about Method Man, I think.
Mhm.
And it was very hard for me to even know what the Wu Tang Clan was because I just have to tell everybody the Wu Tang Clan, I think, came into its own later on. They established themselves in the 90s and then they grew big and then they're worldwide, they're global. But I
Yeah.
was working then. I didn't watch TV. I didn't listen to shows like
Wow.
everybody else. We were all working, including the Wu Tang Clan. Tisha Campbell, Martin, Will Smith. You went and did your job, and I had 26 shows to learn each year. Each week
Dang.
we did a new play. We had to do 2 shows a week. We never saw Living Single. We never saw any of those shows.
Wow. So all
So
you was listening to was the lines you had to learn, right?
exactly. And the
Wow.
little bit, and you really were very disciplined. It's a very hard gig. A lot of people think it's not a lot of fun. There's nothing fun about showbiz except for seeing it done. But we never saw
Right.
what it was until years later when they gave us some DVDs.
Okay, well, you know all about them now, right?
More than I need to know or ever thought I needed, wouldn't ever know.
Oh, I love it. That's what's up. Okay, I know you don't have a lot of time, but you got to spill a little tea. Tell us
Mhm.
something that we don't know about living single. A story we don't know behind the scenes about living single.
Wow, I wish I could. You know what? It's so very hard for me to think about living single. It's almost 30 years.
It was a
I
while.
wish it was a while ago. I don't know if there's a story you don't know because I've talked about it so often. But I do know this that a lot of people don't know this about where we were located. We were located on some place called the Ranch Lot. There was the big Warner Brothers lot, and there was something called the Ranch. We used to call it the Ghetto Lot because only the black shows were on there, and we
Is
were
that
there.
right?
Yes, with the Wayans brothers. And at some point, of all things, the Waltons return to Walton's Mountain came to film on our lot, and we
So they
used to
came to the
joke.
hood?
It came to the hood, and we used to say, "Y'all bringing down the property values," and it was so cool to kid John Boy Walton about that, and we just had a great time, and I think that people don't know what a camaraderie happens, when you see Marlon Wayans and they're doing their thing and they've been spun off by their brothers and all that. There's just a lot of industry, but it was just a ton of hard work. So
Yeah.
that's what I like to say, that more than the fun you saw, you could see the discipline that would happen each week to learn a show and then perform it twice, with only 4 days rehearsal. And
So, two last questions before I let
yeah.
you go. Now, I know you were Cosby was like a mentor to you when you were on the show. And it must have been so painful for you to see where he's ended up now. Just what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I was one of the newer cast members, so I was more of a person that came on as a fan who got a job. I know as an actress, but as opposed to somebody who had been on the show originally and had gone on as long as the other cast members. So of course, you're always disappointed that if someone that you respect and that you considered mentor to you, whether you knew them or not, is accused of something, then to find out that it is in fact true and that there's no way that these women all could have the same story over time. And for whatever reason, women are often marginalized and their voices stopped when they say that they've been harmed.
Right, right.
That's the unfortunate truth of it all. I
Mm.
will always align with the people who have been harmed.
Yes.
It's not my story to tell, and it's not even my call to make because a jury finally made it. But there's so many times that that doesn't happen. That the
That's
person is
right.
able to go forward, do all that damage, and walk away. And the collateral damage is extensive, and there's no words to say. It's not just collateral damage for the women involved who have to bear that, which I can't speak to. I just can say it's good that they get some sort of justice, but also the collateral damage of the image and the person that you knew, and that you
Right.
have to sort of put to bed in a different light and say, well, that person wasn't who I thought they were, and it's a shame because they were so not only talented, but they had so much that they could have given to the world outside
That's,
of that.
that's well said. And there's a different impact when it's a Jeffrey Epstein than when it's a Bill Cosby.
Well,
I
for
think.
us it is.
Yeah,
For
for
us
us.
it is.
Yeah.
It's we work very hard for those positions, and the one that he placed in the world wasn't just of entertaining; it was edutainment, and it was
Yeah.
for the betterment of a race. If I used an old saying, but
And
just shows you,
yeah, you never know, right?
hey, people fall short of the glory, and that's what
Yes,
it is.
I do. Well, one last question. I hear,
Mhm.
and it might not be true, but I hear you are newly single. So after
Well, I am.
yeah,
I'm not.
after
I've been
two
divorced.
decades, you
I'm
are living
divorcing.
single
Yes,
for real now, right?
yes.
Living single for real. How are you adjusting to that? How are you, enjoying
I've
coming
been,
into yourself?
I've been separated for a very long time. So
Okay.
it's not an adjustment. And plus, we're still creative collaborators. We did
Oh,
Concrete
that's
Park together.
beautiful.
We still write
Yeah.
together. Yeah, Tony Puryear is my ex-husband, and he's wonderful. So what I think about it is that it was a very difficult breakup because I admire and love the man. Just didn't get along. That's the truth.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah.
And we
I
were
feel
good
you.
people. Yeah, and so we just realized that maybe we're better apart than we were together. But we would always not only remain friends, but creative collaborators, and that's how it is. It's heartbreaking because I didn't know how much I had attached myself to the idea of being married because I never really wanted to be married. So suddenly to find out that something's breaking up
Interesting.
that you had already sort of anchored yourself to was news to me.
Yeah.
And also I'm extremely loyal. And he was the second I married the second man I ever dated. So I'm not out there on the streets
Wow.
like, yeah, because again, I was working. I'm
Wow,
also a
but that had to be
daughter.
an adjustment then, because you were
I
not used to
I went
being
to
out here in these streets, in these
no, I
dating
went to an
streets.
all girls high school. I was on the road with a Maparata and a world tour doing
Wow.
plays around the world when I was 17 and 18, then came back and did kind of, it was work, 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 work. And then I met, I had an earlier boyfriend who I loved and was wonderful. And then met Tony, got married.
Yeah,
And,
and
and it
once you've
came
been married
together.
that long, it becomes because I've had the same situation and I'm separated but real tight with my ex too. But once you've been married that long, it's part of your DNA and it's a habit. Not I don't mean a habit in
Yeah,
a bad way,
yeah.
but you're just used
No.
to that lifestyle. And then when you get out and you're single and you're like trying to do the dating sites, I don't know if you've tried those, but it's like, what
Oh,
is going
yeah,
on? WTF?
yeah. No,
Well,
I would never try
the
those.
brothers
That's
are
not
all
my
trying to
thing.
find you now.
Yeah,
All the brothers who are
yeah,
watching this, they are going to be trying to
yeah.
find you right now.
Well, they probably won't be because they weren't trying to find me then. And I'm not a person who would ever be on a dating site because I don't even understand it. But I do understand that part of the reasons why I probably didn't have as many dates is because it wasn't something that I sort of lent myself to. I really felt very complete as a woman. And I
Wow.
thought that having a man, and I meet so many great men that I'd love to marry. I wish I could have several husbands because I have a ton of them. But
I'm with
but I
that.
but I yeah, but I do believe in companionship, love, and trust. And and romance. That's a beautiful thing. And where you can find it, good luck. But it doesn't
Yeah.
determine who I am, and more importantly, I don't have those types of feel. I never did. Even growing up, I was like sort of like boyfriends, whatever.
Okay.
Wasn't my thing.
Now, all my sisters, that is some wise words. So I want you to take that in, make that part of your life. All right, my queen, thank you so much
Thank you.
for hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate it. Everybody, check out the podcast, Reparations, the Big
Big
Payback.
payback. Yeah, wherever you listen to your
And you've
podcast, you
got a
can
new
catch
show
it.
coming up too that I just
Oh,
read.
Run the World. Run the
Run the
World. Yeah.
World.
So the woman who does Living Single is the co-creator on this with Lee Davenport. It's about 4 Black girls in Harlem, 30-something millennials, and I played one of their bosses, Barb Ballard. And I did quite a few episodes, and it's coming out soon on Stars. So yeah, thanks for
Yes, so
watching.
watch out for that. Erika, thank you so much. I am a big
Yes,
fan. You are a
please.
shero. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for
And can I
all.
tell everybody to subscribe if they
Yes.
really want to help, to go to the podcast and subscribe and follow? That really helps us. It gives us the resources to do it again. And thanks to Charlemagne the God, who actually came, and we're doing it with his Black Effect Podcast Network. He's
Oh,
the
that's
reason
what's
why
up.
the reason why
Yeah.
this happened. Yeah. So
That's what's up.
shout out to
Love
him
you,
and Dolly.
girl. Mwah.
Love you too.
Okay,
Ciao.
peace.
Bye
Bye.
bye.